In May of 2017, MrBeast crossed 1 million subscribers, but there was a problem.
Some months we're spending like $4 or $5 million on videos. We've ran out of money many times. I'm not a businessman, I'm a creator.
So if Jimmy doesn't care about the money, who does?
He had 1 million subscribers when I met him, and he was like, I'm gonna have 10 million subscribers by the end of the year. And he was like, I need money to fund these videos.
This is Reed. He's been Jimmy's manager for the past 5 years. He left his job as a sports agent to work with channels like Dude Perfect during YouTube's early years.
I thought consumer loyalty was shifting from corporation to individual.
Now he runs a management company called Night Media, which represents some of the biggest creators in the world. We sat down with him to hear some untold stories about MrBeast.
Hey Jimmy, we need a sponsor on this video or we don't have any money left. We gotta stop the gun stuff. How did Jimmy do this? This is what becomes dangerous about YouTube.
And ask him how creators can build long-lasting businesses on YouTube.
Okay, let's just like break this down.
Yeah.
That's what creators need to do to prepare.
All right, before we get into the interview, we want to thank the sponsor of this episode, NordVPN.
If you're using the internet and you don't use a VPN yet, it's definitely something you should be using. And if you use our link, which is in the description, then not only do you get to use a VPN, but you also get to support our show. If you don't know what a VPN is, let's explain.
Typically when you use the internet, the connection is directly between your device and the website, but that's super easy to hack. And with a VPN, your information is encrypted on the way in as well as on the way out. A VPN hides your IP address and internet traffic to keep you safe from any people looking to grab your sensitive data.
Another perk of having a VPN when I was in Europe was I could actually log into a server in the United States and see what was trending on YouTube in the US while I was traveling.
We get it, you travel. The man's a traveler.
And NordVPN is not just a VPN. They also recently launched threat protection, which protects you from malicious websites, malware, hackers, and intrusive ads. This is something that I got my parents set up on because they will click on anything that pops up on their screen.
So head to the link in the description, nordvpn.com/Colin and Samir. It's completely risk-free. There's a 30-day money-back guarantee, and it costs about the cost of a cup of coffee a month.
So thanks so much to Nord for supporting creators like us. And now to untold stories about MrBeast. So Reed, how much money do you make?
I was like, all right, no money questions. First question, how much money do you make?
Tell us every single creator how much they make.
I'll give you a range. It's between like 0 and I don't even want to say what the high range is.
I was gonna say you can't even say what the higher end is. So your like entrance into this world is really fascinating because you came across Dude Perfect.
Yeah, I did. Pretty early on. It was like 2014, Dude Perfect.
When does Jimmy come into the picture?
January of 2018.
Wow.
I remember
So
it very
3 years.
vividly. We met each other when we had nothing. I mean, I didn't have a business yet. It was just me. He basically sent me a Twitter message, and for the next month, we just spoke every few days. I thought he was just the most fascinating person because I would just listen to him talk about YouTube. He showed me this graph at the time, and it was essentially like a y-axis and x-axis, and he had all his videos dotted on this graph, and there was a correlation between all the videos based on the CTR and the AVD of the video. And he's like, I did all this research, I've done it for multiple channels. If I can get in like this CTR plus this AVD, videos get over 10 million views. And so in his mind, he was like, that's all I care about is getting this CTR and this AVD on videos. And I know my videos are gonna get over 10 million views. He did say he had 1 million subscribers when I met him. And he was like, I'm gonna have 10 million subscribers by the end of the year. Okay, 9 million subs in a year. Like this guy's crazy. But he was like, no, here's what I'm gonna do. And he kind of laid out the plan of how he was gonna grow. And I was like, okay, as crazy as this sounds, I'm willing to help you. And he was like, I need money to fund these videos. But he ended up crossing the year at 13.3 million at the end of 2018. And then I can't even remember what 2019 was, but I think it was like 26 million by the end of the year or something. Like it just went nuts.
Considering his growth and his success, was it like, okay, I'm starting to work with this guy. He's pretty wild. He's cutting a table in half with a plastic knife and whatever the hell.
Video. Yeah, you guys haven't watched that video.
He's watching paint dry, like whatever this dude is doing. And it's just like, boom, it worked. And
no, absolutely not. The amount of people I called that were like, no chance. Like, we know this kid's not gonna convert. He's from, middle of nowhere. We don't understand the content. He's watching It's Every Day, Bro, for 24 hours. Like, nobody.
I can't sell anything.
Jimmy was like, early on, like there were some questionable videos where he was like shooting certain things. Like our biggest video was, can 50,000 magnets stop a bullet? 57 million views in 3 days. And in 2018, that was a banger.
Right.
Yeah.
And most people were like, whoa, gun? No way.
Right.
And so that was one thing that held us back a lot. And him and I talked about it a lot in the early days, is like, we got to stop the gun stuff. Like,
but even that, what's interesting is that's like Mythbusters.
I agree.
Right? Like there's a format of that on television and there are ads that play before that video.
But a 18-year-old kid in the middle of nowhere, shooting stuff at random was like not something people were going to sponsor.
It wasn't on TV.
It wasn't on TV. It didn't have that feeling of like control around the environment.
Yeah, there wasn't a production company. It was like, hey, Jimmy, gun. Let's shoot it.
We can't sell that.
Yeah. And so it became just mobile games at the beginning. That's all I could convince. Like I couldn't convince big advertising agencies to even touch it. So it became like World of Tanks and like all these random mobile games that thankfully sponsored videos, because then we got to just pull off crazy stuff early on. If it wasn't for those mobile games, I don't know if we would have got brand deals in the first 2 years. It was so difficult. It would have been honey and that's it.
When did you get the sense in that year that he was going to become like your premier client?
I don't even think I still view him as that. Like we're so close. I mean, we're business partners at this point. We've done so much together. We bicker like an old couple. I mean, we've been together, I think 4.5 years. Like it was just him, Chris, an editor, and his mother when I met him. He was a very small team. I think I realized that Jimmy was going to be something special on YouTube. First sponsor video with Honey was, you guys probably remember, it was like donating to Ninja. Ninja was doing a charity live stream. And I remember him pitching it to Honey. And they were so excited with the idea. And I was kind of like on the fence, like, all right, is this Twitter donation thing played out? He was so particular about that edit and how it was edited and how the video intro looked. That's when I knew. I was like, his brain just works differently than any other creator I've met to this point. If he's thinking about what does this 10-second intro look like, and he's obsessing over that. I've never heard a creator obsess over a 10-second intro in my life. But he's like, this is how important this is, because this is literally the hook of why people would stay for this 20-minute video. And so that video went on to get, 70 million views. I'm sure to this day, he still has the #1 most downloaded day for Honey ever. And that was that Ninja video.
And in that first year, like, what was the type of money that would get you an integration?
$50K, we would do those deals all day.
All day, yeah.
But we wanted CPM deals. We basically wanted a $20 CPM with a minimum. So we'd be like $30K minimum, $20 CPM up to $125,000 cap.
Yeah.
So if the video, I can't do quick math, but if the video would get all the way up to $125,000 on that CPM, we'd hit the cap and they'd have to pay us that money. Those are the deals we wanted to do. And so that's how we started doing it, because it's easy to negotiate base fees for someone that pulls 1 million views on average every single views. Jimmy was growing so quickly month over month that it was so hard to value his videos. And I would like send out pricing to a brand and they would be like, not now. And they'd call me back 6 months later and be like, hey, we have budget. And I'd be like,
it's way more expensive.
It's tripled. Yeah. So I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
And it still kind of does that to this day. It's like so hard to value his videos, because like Squid Game gets 260 million views. The next video gets 130. So it's so hard.
Does the job get harder for you as time goes on, as his operation explodes, as you bring on more employees, more clients?
I don't know if it gets harder. It gets more complicated, and it's definitely more stressful. There was a level of stress of, hey, Jimmy, we need a sponsor on this video or we don't have any money left. But the stress is completely different now. We're in the public eye. If someone gets a bad hamburger, we hear about it on Twitter. Yeah. It's just like, there's a different level of stress that comes with it. There's infinite possibility. Where do you focus your energy? And so that's, I think, for him and I, that's become the tough part, is like the amount of distractions that are now in both of our lives is really hard to navigate sometimes.
So it feels like with Jimmy, there was a inflection point on the Squid Game video. Mm-hmm. Like that felt like a substantial change to me. And maybe it was also this time last year when we went out and saw the massive, new studio there. But I'm curious if when he first brought up that idea to you of Squid Game in real life, if you thought that was a good idea, a good investment of money, like what was that conversation like? And how has that changed the MrBeast we see today?
Yeah, I mean, I always thought it was a great idea. I was worried about how expensive the idea was going to be, because I know that Jimmy in his mind was like, I need to build everything to a T to the scale that they had it, which he did. So I was like, okay, it's going to be not only incredibly expensive, it's going to take a long time to build these sets. And so we were able to, get that done in 3 to 4 weeks, but it put him in another level. I think he finally like had another layer of breakthrough to this like traditional world, where now every time I talk to someone, and a lot of people that probably wouldn't have known who he was are now like, oh, the guy that made Squid Game. Mm-hmm. It's like, it feels like everyone watched that video. It's really interesting looking at the analytics of that video too. There's 3 million people in South Korea that viewed that video. So it's like we can see everyone around the world. It says 260 million views or something like that. So we can see everyone around the world that's viewed that video. And so I think it kind of transcended like what he was currently doing, which was maybe 70 million views a video, and put him into something that was like fully in pop culture and what was popular in the world, putting his spin on it. And it's just completely taking over for, I don't know, 46, 48 hours, like however long that, I think it was like 3 days. It got up to 150 million views.
Do you think that since then there's been a different amount of pressure that he's put on himself, or that
I think it's
you
hard
guys
not
feel?
to. Like every video now, I think you kind of view it as like, if Squid Game is the bar, like what's the next video going to be? Right. Which is kind of hard in his position, because you have to continually one up yourself. This is what becomes dangerous about YouTube, is when you're in the game that Jimmy's in, each video has to be better than the next. But when you make a video like Squid Game that is just a masterpiece, that next video that you put out has to be a masterpiece as well. And I think it's like one of the reasons you didn't see Jimmy post for 3 months. It's like, he was like, how do I follow this up? I gained 10 million subscribers in 30 days. The video has 200 million views. Like, what is the next video? And so I think it was like really hard for him to kind of like wrap his head around that, with like, if this is the bar, then it's going to be really hard for us to continually take this up.
Yeah, I think the thing I noticed in the beginning of this year with Jimmy is like, he was uploading significantly less on the main channel, right? But at the same time, reacts and gaming are incredibly consistent. And I'm curious if that's a conversation that you guys have around, like, or that he talks about, of like having almost like, it feels like an engine. Cause like no matter what, there's a new MrBeast video. It's just not on MrBeast.
Yeah. I mean, that was kind of by design, right? If we're not going to post 30, I can't even remember the amount of videos we posted in 2019, but I think it was in the 40s.
Wow.
And then it went down to like 31, then it went down, like it's continually went down year over year, but you need more touch points then. If you're only going to post 12 videos a year, one a month, you need more touch points so people are continually seeing your face. Or else, like, YouTube's interesting if you're a kid, and I've like weirdly had this conversation with like some of my like cousins who are really young, and I'm like, do you watch Jimmy? And in the past they'd be like, yeah, but he doesn't upload enough, so I like watch this person and this person and this person. Now it's like we have a video that goes up every single week, if not every 4 days, because we have all these different channels now: Beast Philanthropy, Shorts, gaming, and now Reacts. And so it was by design. I mean, I think it's also, those videos also help fund the craziness that happens on the main channel. So it's a deeper source of revenue, but I'm now seeing a lot of creators replicate that model.
Does selling get more difficult as Jimmy's videos take longer to make?
It doesn't become more difficult. It just becomes harder on me going back and asking for more time and more time and more time. Like, we've had situations where we've signed a deal, video's supposed to go up in June. It's now November, and they're like, what the hell is going on? Where's our video? And I'm just like, Jimmy's just filming good videos. I don't know what to tell you.
I don't know. There was too much wind on this private island.
I mean, he's definitely left me out to dry a few times, but like, he's trying to make the best videos possible. Like, I totally get it. So it's like, I'll take that bullet all the time to be like, hey, you're not getting a video this month. I know you have to spend your budget, but like, we're trying to make the best video possible. And you're going to get a banger when it goes up. You're going to have to wait another 60 days. And most people have been fine with it, I think, because they're like, we really want a MrBeast video. But some people have been incredibly upset when I come back and I'm like, hey, your video that was supposed to go up in November is probably not going to go up until January.
I'm curious if there have been moments, you know, or if there were even moments in that first year with Jimmy or since then that you had like almost oh shit moments together. You
oh
guys,
shit,
like,
in a good way or a bad way?
Well, let's do both.
Honestly, there's been so many. The first one was the 50,000 magnets stop a bullet. That was like one of the moments where we were like, wait, how do we replicate this? We just got 20 million views in a day. Like, how is that possible? That was one of the first ones. Opening day of MrBeast Burger was kind of like a holy shit in a bad way moment. We knew it was going to be successful. I don't think we really had planned for how crazy it was going to be. And for you guys on the outside, you were probably like, how did Jimmy do this? I was getting calls from so many creators that were so confused. They were like, I don't understand how you guys opened 300 restaurants in one single day. And now I'm on DoorDash and I can order MrBeast Burger. Like, so many people are so confused. But the sheer amount of orders on that first night was so wild. We had like 100 cars waiting outside restaurants, waiting for their orders. And there wasn't enough delivery drivers to order the amount of hamburgers that were being ordered. And then every place was running out of buns and hamburgers. And so people were calling me like, we don't have any more buns. And then someone would have to drive to a grocery store to get buns. And it was just utter circus. And Jimmy and I like sat on our couches and we were on Twitter for like 6 hours.
Replying.
We had no customer support. Like we had zero customer support. And people were just yelling on Twitter about like not receiving their orders for like 2 hours. And him and I were just playing damage control. That was like a holy shit in a bad way. And then the next morning I woke up and we just like looked at each other and we were like, what just happened? How do we fix this?
Yeah.
It was like a holy shit, this is the coolest thing we've ever done, to, oh my God, this is a fire. How are we going to deal with this? Literally within an hour. And now MrBeast Burger is what it is. But the first 48 hours are probably the most stressful part. Most stressful thing I've ever been a part of.
Why do you have an appetite for that level of exposure and risk in these projects?
We're just trying to like break barriers and kind of like set the bar. Like we want to show other creators what's possible. And the first person through the wall usually gets the bloodiest. And in the MrBeast Burger scenario, like it was brutal. The first 48 hours were brutal, but I mean, I wouldn't do anything. Like I wouldn't take back the idea. I think what we did opened everyone's eyes to virtual dining and the scalability of it and how crazy it can get. Same with Finger on the app, like 1.6 million people playing. Like it was wild to us. Just like watching the data on the back end of like all these people moving their thumbs was wild. And so it's like, I wouldn't change anything about it. I just think when we're trying to innovate, and we're also doing these things really quickly. Like MrBeast Burger was like 3 months of planning. It wasn't like years. It was like, we had 3 months to pull this off. And so it's like some things just get lost in that process. And it's like at Feastables, we did completely different because of that. Like we learned a lot from both of those cases that like you have to be able to solve for things that could potentially go wrong. I mean, one's like chocolate melting, right? Obvious. And so like we have giant bricks that like ship with our chocolate just so chocolate doesn't melt. But if we wouldn't have done MrBeast Burger probably prior to that, we probably wouldn't even have thought of that. We'd have been like, oh, people would get shipped chocolate. Great. And then it would have all melted and then we would have had to deal with it after the fact. So it's put us in a different mindset of like, okay, how many things can go wrong? Let's actually just think about those for the next like 2 months and let's prepare for that.
I think a lot of creators, like when they see something like Feastables or Prime, like Logan and KSI did, like they want to do something similar, right? Like we all want to show that other side of ourselves, like build a business that can last after maybe we're done making videos. But hearing you talk about like the problems that you guys had to face, clearly there's like, takes a lot of money, takes a lot of people. And I'm sure now Feastables has a ton of employees. Like, right? Like what does it actually look like?
Jimmy and I were joking about that the other day because there was a team meeting for Feastables and I sent him like a screenshot of the team meeting and I was like, dude, look at all these people at Feastables. I was like, this used to just be you and I and like Jim, who's the CEO. And so this is what kind of like our philosophy with Feastables. It was, we wanted to create a product that was really good that we thought his fan base could really gravitate towards. So it was like product market fit of better for you snacks. We knew Jimmy's community would convert. The last piece of this equation was like, we needed a really good CEO because we knew Jimmy and I weren't going to be able to focus on this business. And so we were lucky enough to meet, his name's Jim Murray. He was the former president of RX Bar. He had our RX Bar had just sold and he was at the end of his like buyout non-compete. And we started interviewing people and we met him and like instantly Jimmy and I were like, this is the guy. Like we found the guy. And so we ended up hiring him, eventually hired the COO of RX Bar, and we just started hiring out the executive team. Without them, this business would have been an utter disaster. And I think this is like one thing that creators need to remember is if you're starting businesses, you're not going to be the CEO of every business. Jimmy's not the CEO of MrBeast Burger. He's not the CEO of Feastables. Like those are separate teams, separate people thinking about those businesses every day. So if you're a creator right now, it's like, I want to start X business. Go find people that can help you run that business. Don't think you're going to be the CMO, the CEO. It just doesn't work. Like it's the same with your production company. You need good people to make good videos. You need good people in these businesses for them to last and have success. Because if you're the only one thinking about like your chocolate bar company, it's not going to succeed. So it's like without that, like this company doesn't happen.
I mean, like with our newsletter, we got newsletter people.
Right.
Because we had never launched the newsletter before.
Right.
Yeah, we were talking about this off camera. I was like, what's that company look like? And you're like, writer and like person that runs general manager. I was like, of course, like you have to. Because if you guys are gonna start multiple business units, like you have to have people responsible for each one. And that's where I've seen creators really screw up is they think that the biggest piece of the equation is like, I have community, I have an audience, I can promote product will be successful. No, these all come down to people businesses. Like you can maybe have a giant marketing funnel, but if you don't know how to run and operate a company, it's not going to work. Like it may work for 6 months. Eventually this has to become a business. And so that's like really where we started with both of these is like, who is responsible for these business and what does that team look like?
Yeah. So what is now, I know you shared this on LinkedIn, Patty Galloway's graphic of like a creator business, right? And how it is diversified and different parts of it. In your experience right now, like, is there today a classic model of creator business? Like if there's a young creator, they start, making it, they get 1 million subs. Is there okay, here's how it works. We're going to get you some brand deals. We're going to launch, a business with you. Does that exist, or is it different for every creator?
I don't think it's different for every creator. I think if you're a YouTuber right now, it kind of goes in the same line it's like same with hiring, right? It's like you usually hire an editor, a thumbnail artist, then a production person, then a creative. It kind of works the same way with let's just say monetization is AdSense usually comes first, right? I've seen instances where apparel comes first if the content is too edgy to run ads, but I would say the majority of the time AdSense is the first revenue stream. The second revenue stream is almost always your first, second, third brand deal, right? Usually people don't launch apparel before brands come into the fold. And those brands could be affiliate deals, they could be base fee deals. So it's usually AdSense, brand sponsorships, then apparel usually comes third. Where this gets interesting is like bubble 4, 5, 6, 7, right? I've seen like content syndication, other products and services like CPG. Now we're getting into like paywall services like Patreon and Fansly and OnlyFans. And so, and then there's another layer of this, which is like Twitch Prime subs or YouTube memberships. But usually the first 3 are always AdSense, brand sponsorships, apparel. Very rarely, I could see a paywall service maybe coming first, but that person's usually just like, I'm on Patreon. I'm not like a massive YouTube creator, right? So I would say for the most part, at least everyone we've worked with, that's been the exact same philosophy or the exact same revenue model.
Yeah, I would say we only differ in that AdSense was never significant for us.
But you still made money on it.
We still made money on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was still the first dollars we made as a
a
creator. So that's right.
When you look at us and what we do as creators, are there certain avenues that you think we should go down?
Yeah.
Like what's your advice?
I mean, it's
for us?
like your audience is like me, right? Or people that are in their 20s that want to be aspiring creators or maybe are creators that are growing. Feels to me like courses about content creation is like the one that sticks out the most. I know you guys sold hats and they sold out instantly, but that's like a specialty item that people want. Like that's interesting. Instead of you guys having like an always on store where that item no longer becomes special. And I've seen it where like Nelk's a good example of they knew alcohol was going to be an interesting space for them. And now they sell all these like alcohol adjacent things. Like they sell the bottle openers, they sell the beer pong, like cups, like they sell all that stuff. But for you guys, it feels like courses makes a ton of sense.
Courses is our alcohol, basically.
Yeah.
It's probably not as scalable, but it
has the same sex appeal.
Yeah, of course. Like it just,
One question that we actually got on our Reddit yesterday that had to do with management. There's a creator that asked us, they're starting to see some deals come in. They want help on it, but they were asking about how managers get paid when it comes to either a manager taking, a percentage across all of your income or just management acquired income.
Yep.
And I'm just curious if you can kind of explain that or explain how typically management works for creators.
It's honestly so dependent on the management company. Some management companies will be like, we're going to take a percentage of everything, which includes AdSense. I would say the majority of management companies right now in the digital space will not commission AdSense. At least everything that I've seen. Some of them, I won't name them by names, but some of them are still trying to do those deals. We've kind of backed off from that over the years. The MCN world kind of ruined that for the managers. It's also the difference between music and every other space, and digital is everything's commissionable in music. In digital, like if you're not commissioning the AdSense, that's usually half, 60% of the business you're not commissioning. So most managers commission, we call it found money. So like they're doing an apparel deal for you, if they're negotiating a brand deal, that's all found money, and that will usually get a percentage fee coming off the top.
Oh, that's good terminology for people to know.
Yeah.
Found money.
What's something that you think creators generally don't understand about the job of being a manager?
I don't think they understand how much work goes into just getting someone to agree to do a brand deal. There's a lot of stuff that just doesn't funnel into emails. I would say the majority of what we do does not funnel into emails. It's really relationship building. Like some of the stuff that either Jimmy or Preston or Ryan or people have done in our company, I've had to build that relationship for 2 years. You meet them at VidCon, you take them out to coffee, you just like slowly get to know them. All of a sudden they're like, we just signed a new client. This would be perfect for Reed's client.
So in that spirit of educating, I do think it'd be really interesting to kind of talk about, we get this question a lot. What's the difference between a manager, an agent, and maybe a president, like someone who's in-house? Like as a young creator who's maybe starting to establish a business, at what stage do they need which one, or do they do different people need different? Okay,
so I'll pick this apart. So I'll start with the first one. What's the difference between the three? And I think it's so dependent on traditional versus music versus digital, because managers, agents, like they do different things across different verticals. So if we're just talking specifically in traditional, the agent has mainly been the person that's sending you on auditions. They're negotiating contracts. They're really like funneling the business opportunity to the manager to then bring to the client. The agent's doing most of the work. In digital, it's almost the opposite. What we've kind of found is the manager is kind of the like most important person, because they're in the weeds of the business. They understand what the creator needs. They understand if they need to hire, what people they need to hire. At least the good managers, they understand this. The agents have unfortunately kind of got leveraged out of the digital space a little bit, because I think the managers have started to almost do the agent's job. They've started to do the brand partnerships, and then they pass the contract to a lawyer. So it's a little different now than it was in traditional. Traditional still works very similar. Most actors actually have an agent and a manager. What I've kind of noticed in this digital sphere that we live in is most creators just have a manager, or most creators just have an agent, and they kind of play the same role in this area a little bit. What we're really focused on that agents really struggle with is we like to think about how they innovate. Like what's your strategy for the business? Like how do you grow your production company? Whereas like on the agent side, it's very transactional. They're very focused on like, how do we just continue to get 10%, right? And if this brand deal doesn't work, like let's quickly go throw it to this person or this person or this person. So we try not to be as transactional as that. And so that to me is like the biggest difference. The president inside a digital company, for the most part, these are production companies. And it seems like the president plays that like head of production role or the head of operations role for the most part. They're kind of like helping doing the hiring, they're operationalizing the business, they're hiring production managers and editors and thumbnail artists. At least that's like, when we think about different companies across, even Jimmy's, like it's mainly like a head of production is that president person right now.
So the president role doesn't necessarily like threaten the manager role in your eyes.
I mean, we haven't seen that, no. The other like interesting thing, and WME and CA have done this really well, is they've built these companies over decades, so they have this network effect. They know what's going on everywhere. They know what casting directors are doing this. They know what brands are spending. Like they've built this massive network effect. That's really valuable. And so it's like something that Knight is like finally built, is like we have that network effect because we have our ears to the ground on everything. It's really hard to replicate that inside of just one company. So say like Jimmy hires someone who's like supposed to do the manager job. It's really hard for them to build that like network effect to know what's going on, know what Netflix is looking for, know what this brand is spending on. Like it's really tough. And so I think it's why we haven't seen that done very well. Why most creators still outsource to a manager is for that very reason.
So as Jimmy's manager, someone who's been there since 1 million subscribers, what does it feel like for him to cross 100 million?
I was like all alone, received this like package from YouTube in my Austin apartment. And I've seen the 10 million die. Like we have a lot of creators with 10 million. We've seen a lot of these things. It was a very surreal moment opening this package for this like red box, and you open it and it's like, it's much heavier, it's thicker. So it's like, I had like a little moment with myself of kind of like reflection, like thinking back of like, oh, wow, I've been here since 1 million subscribers. Like this happened so quickly, but it doesn't feel like the journey's even close to over. Right. I think a lot of this is like enjoying the journey you're on. And so it's like Jimmy and I probably don't reflect as much as we should on like accomplishments. Like him and I will give each other a high five or a fist bump and be like, we won a Kids Choice Award, or he won a Kids Choice Award. Congrats. Haven't really thought about it too much because I think we just have so much more to accomplish. This is like an amazing milestone, but yeah, it's.
I mean, how do you wrap your head around 100 million people?
That's what I was thinking. I was like holding this thing and I was like, will I ever see one of these again? Like 100 million subscribers on a channel. Like this is crazy. I don't know. Like, will I ever see it again? I have no idea, but we have so much more to accomplish. I don't know. This is like, if anything, it fuels us to be like, wow, this is one of the goals we had when I met him in 2018 was to hit 100 million subscribers. That goal's hit, but we have so many other goals along the road that we have to get to that we kind of just like reset the focus and we're off.
So we both worked in this world before it was called the creator economy and watched, I guess, over the last couple of years, this thing have a name to it and have this industry develop. With this potential economic downturn coming, like, do you feel like this will change? Like what happens to this world of the creator economy in the future?
I mean, we've never been through a recession in the creator economy. Well, YouTube was launched in 2006, like the collapse was in 2007. I sent out a document I don't even know, 2 months ago, a month ago, that was basically like, what should creators know and how should they be preparing for an imminent recession? And so I think like the biggest takeaway for me as I started having a lot of conversations was most creators just don't understand their business.
Yeah.
They don't understand how much it takes to post a video. They don't understand how much they're paying people, like what their cost structure is, how much money they're making on a per month basis. That's like first what needs to happen is like, if you're a creator, you really need to understand your business.
What's the fundamentals of what every creator should know about their business?
I think you should know, one, you should know how you make money. I think that's really important.
Sure. Yeah.
After you know how you make money, it's how much are you spending? Like what are you actually spending money on? I think even like looking around this place, the amount of like equipment and like there's lights on, you're paying an electric bill, you're paying, obviously we probably have internet in here, like all the things that you don't think about that you're paying for. We got people over here, we got someone taking a picture, like there's people everywhere, right? So there's costs. Like all I see is dollar signs when I look around.
Same, these aren't people to me.
But most creators like don't know. They have no idea. They're like, oh, I just pay an editor $20 to edit a video. I'm like, okay, like, do you pay for any software product? Like, do you pay for Adobe? Like, they like don't, you don't think about these things. And so after you understand where you're making money from, it's understanding what those expenses are. And then it's understanding like, am I actually making money month over month or am I losing money? Yeah. Did I have a really good July that's funding the rest of my year because I'm losing money for the next 6 months?
Yeah.
I don't think most creators understand even what they're burning on a per month basis.
Yeah, because I think we end up developing recurring expenses, but sometimes not recurring revenue because it's like some months are better than others, and you actually start to recognize like, wait, there's not monthly recurring revenue in our business. And so to try to find like, how do you develop that? You can develop that through long-term, partnerships. You can sign a year-long deal. You can, like there are ways to develop it, but I do think that was one of the first lessons for us, hard lessons for us, was like not even knowing the ins and outs of our business, like what's coming in and what's going out.
We also like have had so many creators that when you start making more money per month, you start spending money on pretty ridiculous things. Like now you want a Lamborghini, and like now you buy an at-home gym.
We bought a car.
Like, yeah, exactly. Like you buy this office. Like you start spending a lot of money, and you're like, okay, now I'm making $20K a month, but I just spent $25K because like I doubled my revenue, I doubled my expenses.
Right.
And so people just need to understand that.
Has there been anything for you in the past 2 years where something you feel like has happened in the creator economy that you weren't expecting, certain type of growth? Like I feel like these last 2 years have been super unique.
I'll be honest, like I didn't expect TikTok to blow up like it did. I honestly thought TikTok was just a trend that was gonna just blow away. And I was like, the whole dancing thing is just not gonna last. I still have a lot of questions around community building, around swipe content. But yeah, TikTok was not something that I saw coming. I actually internally was kind of leading the charge around like, we don't really want to represent TikTok creators. Like, let's focus on where we think community is built, and that's on YouTube. And so when everyone else was launching these management companies, signing TikTok creators and opening TikTok houses, you guys probably noticed like Knight's very quiet. We didn't really sign any TikTok creators because we were like, we would rather have Mariah Elizabeth, Sophia Nygaard. We'd rather have massive communities built on YouTube than sign this like up and coming TikTok creator with 50 million followers that like may or may not grow a community. And I think it's like proven now that, I mean, after VidCon was like
VidCon was crazy. Yeah, that was eye-opening for me.
Yeah, walking into rooms where like a TikTok creator was speaking and it was half full, it's like, wow, I didn't expect this. Like this person has 30 million TikTok followers, but like can't fill a room of 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Like, it was a kind of
that's
mind
more
blowing.
Like too saturated.
That's more common now, right? Like for someone to have, I think you just posted this, right? The amount of people who have 1 million subs on YouTube.
Yeah,
how that's
in
changed
America.
In
Yeah.
America,
It
like
was,
what are those
zero,
stats?
In 2010, there was 0 over 10,000. Now there's, what was it, 5,500 in America.
Over a million.
Over a million.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So that's
It's crazy,
that's
the
super
growth.
substantial when you
Yeah.
think about then, and I'm sure on TikTok that number is insane, right?
Oh, I couldn't even, I don't even remember, I don't even know the names of these TikTok channels. There's like people with 50 million followers on TikTok, and I remember seeing their face scrolling through, but I can't identify what the channel name is. I think that's different on YouTube.
Right.
If someone has 50 million subs, like I've watched 2 videos, I remember the channel name.
Yeah.
If I could watch a TikTok from someone, I could watch 30 TikToks from a TikToker and I could not even remember their name because you're through it so quick. You're like 5 seconds and you're gone on to the next. You just don't even pay attention. I think that's the difference, is like, it's so hard to build community on TikTok right now. And it worries me for you guys see this, the people growing on YouTube with YouTube Shorts. I don't think they're growing fan bases. I think people are just flicking through YouTube Shorts. They're getting hundreds of millions of views a month. But when they go to do something like even sell apparel, like nobody wants it because they just haven't built a community. Whereas like Dream and Carl, they were doing 2-hour live streams on Twitch.
Yeah.
And they were doing narrative-based storytelling, and they were communicating with people on Twitter and Reddit. And it's just, it's a different touch point. And so it's like, it's really hard for me to kind of wrap my head around, like, why would we represent a TikTok creator over a massive YouTube channel?
Yeah.
I wonder though, just where it nets out for all of these short form creators that have grown so much in the past 2 years.
I unfortunately think is if we're headed into an economic downturn, like it's going to be really hard for them to make money. That was like, that's when I started talking about like, are we headed into a recession? It was really targeted at like short form content creators, because I'm not worried about the Carls and Jimmys and Sapnaps who have diversified revenue streams and YouTube channels and Twitch streams. I'm more worried for the TikTok creator who only can do brand deals. There's no ad revenue on TikTok. They maybe do like 1 brand deal a month. They don't have a community where they can sell a substantial amount of apparel. They aren't creating their own businesses. That's who I'm worried for. And that's like what I'm kind of seeing is like those brand deals are probably going to dry up. And then how do they make money? So I'm just worried that like all these long form people stop posting content because they're like, I need to go figure out how to make money with my life because I have 30 million followers on TikTok, but no one's paying for it anymore. So that's like that. It really worries me. And I'm seeing it now being replicated on YouTube with YouTube Shorts. The amount of channels doing over 300 million views just on YouTube Shorts is wild at the moment. And nobody knows who they are. It's just crazy. Like every day I go on Social Blade and I'm like, who's in the top 100 viewed channels right now? It's all Shorts channels.
Interesting.
It's crazy. And but no, like people are paying attention because they're flicking through Shorts, but I don't think anyone really is paying attention to these people.
I have one more MrBeast video related question. I watched the I Didn't Eat for 30 Days video, and it was actually my favorite video Jimmy's ever made.
Ever made?
Ever made.
Don't tell him that.
I will
Jeez.
not. I'm sure he won't. The reason why is because I think it was the first time I saw Jimmy's character development play out in a YouTube video. He was the focus. It was almost like a vlog, which felt so different from when he's the host and other people are doing things that are challenging. And I know he's obviously done it in, Buried Alive and whatnot, but like there was something so relatable about not eating. Like, I don't know what it's like to be buried alive. I can't connect with his discomfort there to a certain level, right? I'm just like, that looks terrifying.
We still have the coffin if you want to try it.
No, I don't want to try that. That sounds unbelievably terrifying.
Just try it out next time you go.
Not
Just
eating.
an hour.
Yeah,
You don't have to do 50.
I don't think I could do 15 minutes.
Okay, well, let's not do it then.
Okay, let's do 10 minutes.
We don't
Let's do
want
10.
It's
We'll
a
do
lot
10.
of work to put the dirt on top
Yeah,
of that. So you're
that's
10
not
feet
worth it.
underground for
It's not a video. It's not even a video we would put out.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
Did you not, like, what did you think about?
I didn't even want to be on set. It made me incredibly nervous.
The Buried Alive.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah.
That to me, like he filmed a video early on where he tried to spend 12 hours underwater. You guys probably saw this video.
Yeah, that's an insane video. Yeah.
I won't even get into that, but like that to me was the reason why I didn't want to be on. And I knew Buried Alive was much safer because of the protocols we took to film that video. But yeah, the underwater video made me so upset that like gave me a little bit of PTSD for Buried Alive. But the non-eating video, and he had a good story around it too. Like he kept saying this to me, like he was meeting some of these people that had Crohn's and they were doing these extended fasts and it was really helping with their Crohn's. And so he's like, I want to test this theory. Do you think I should film it? He ended up filming it. I think it turned into a really interesting video and people do like watching Jimmy. I think for the most part, early on in his career, he was the director of his videos. You probably noticed this, like Jimmy went through the evolution of like counting to 100,000 to like kind of being like the games master of the videos.
Yeah, for sure.
And then it kind of came back around, like him and I kind of realized like you need to be the center of attention for your videos. And so he started doing I spent 24 hours in the coldest place in the world. And like, we noticed that people really liked watching him either suffer or watching him be the main focal point of the video.
Yeah.
And so I think that video did both. Like you got to watch Jimmy really struggle through something, which was not eating, but he also was the main storytelling line.
You also got to see behind the scenes of his life,
gonna say, that
which
was one of
was
the first
unique.
times I was
Oh
like,
yeah,
oh, wow.
I traveled the
We're in
whole
his
time.
house,
We were,
like-
we went to New York for Brandcast. He had to go up with Mark Rober and give a speech. This was like 10 days into fasting. He was sleeping on the floor.
Yeah.
Like, he slept on the floor in his green room because he was so tired. And so it's like, I got to kind of
That's
be a
why
part
I
of
thought
this.
that was one of the most unique videos. And again, for me, like maybe it's not as all of his fans' favorite video, but for me personally, I was like, I talked to Jimmy, but I don't know what his life looks like that often, right?
Yeah.
And you got to see him do a video like through his life. That was really interesting to me.
Agreed.
Were there any other videos that you were unsure of with him?
Oh man, there's a ton. Where do I start?
It's probably like a good sign. If
Yeah,
you're
it's a good
unsure,
sign.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, unsure, skeptical. This isn't safe. We probably shouldn't be filming it. There was also a few videos like they thought that they could scale a wall with plungers early on, and they built this giant plexiglass wall. I was like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. The video never got posted.
Right.
There was one video. This video is such a banger too. They traveled to the all 7 wonders of the world. So they basically they like drew straws, and it was like, or something. And it's like, I got Pyramids of Giza and Stonehenge, and like everyone got a different location, and they all left at the same time and went to the 7 wonders of the world. It never got posted because they could never figure out what the thumbnail was for this video.
Wow.
I kid you not. Everything filmed. Jimmy lost his camera in Rome, which was problem number 1. And then no thumbnail got taken. And so it's like video never got posted. So there's a lot of those stories where there's just videos in the graveyard, and there's tons of videos in the graveyard.
Does that ever frustrate you as a manager, or do you just understand it?
Because we've had brand deals on a lot of these videos,
right.
and then I have to call X brand who is like, I love that video concept, and be like, yeah, it's not happening. Jimmy doesn't know what the thumbnail is for this video.
Right. And for a brand, that's like, what are you talking about?
They do not understand it.
Yeah.
They're like, wait, so Jimmy doesn't like the edit, but you re-edited it and you still didn't post it, and you're not going to post it. I'm like, yeah, he doesn't like it. It's getting thrown in the garbage. But they're like, but you spent X amount of money on this video. I'm like, that's irrelevant. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's like, he doesn't think the video is a good video, thus it's not getting posted. So there's a lot of, he sends out I think he does videos now every year where he's like, these videos didn't get posted. There's still a lot of videos that are in the graveyard that haven't made that cut. He like built a city out of bouncy castles. Such a stupid video. Never got posted.
Do you think there's dangers? We've talked about this with actually a few different creators, but I'm curious your perspective on the impact or dangers of younger creators striving to be like Jimmy.
Yeah. It's just going to be really hard for someone to catch up to where he's currently at, because he's spending so much money and the ideas have gotten so crazy and his team's gotten so big. Like, it's a massive infrastructure. Someone's going to do it. It'd be dumb for us to say someone's not going to like do that blueprint and pull it off. But I do see a lot of creators who are making MrBeast style videos, but they just can't get up to that caliber because they're not able to spend $1 million on a video. But I do appreciate that people are striving to make better videos. Like, we're seeing it all over YouTube. I think what's interesting is a lot of people have realized they can't come up to Jimmy's bar. So they've been like, I'm just going to be way more creative. And I think Ryan Trahan's a great example of like, he doesn't want to make videos at that scale, but he's just really focused on like, what's the most creative things that I can do that people want to watch. And he's had so much success doing that. I think like Erac's another good example. Like, just creatively, his videos are really good. And he doesn't have to spend $1 million a video to pull some of these off. Like, he just is thinking a lot about like, is this a good concept? Are people going to click? Let's go execute it. And so YouTube's in a bit of a weird spot right now. I don't think there's a lot of creativity, but I do think that there's a handful of creators that I look at every single day and I'm like, wow, like that is an amazing video and idea that like, I can't believe they executed.
When you're looking at creators to bring on, what are the characteristics that they need to have? Because I'm sure you see a lot of creators with great videos. But
all day.
But who
you have like
actually
a top secret checklist.
I don't think I'll
Okay,
ever.
you can't say
He's
that.
got a top secret
Maybe
checklist.
when I like
man.
retire, I will tell people what it is, but yeah, I haven't really publicly spoken about it. I think it's one of the secret sauces of our company. When you look at our roster top to bottom, we have a lot of creators who have like hockey stick growth and they're killing it. And, you know, I came up with these 5 things 4 years ago of like, what is a night creator? And I spent a lot of time actually with Ezra on a whiteboard of like, if we're going to go forward as a digital talent management company, we need to understand what this person looks like. What is the makeup of this person? And so there's a lot of effort put into that and we don't deviate from it. It's like, if they don't check every single like thing that we need them to check, they're not a night media creator, and that's fine. They're just not for us. And so I don't know if I'll ever release that, but we'll see.
I like that. I think
maybe
it has
in
a
the future. Yeah.
It's got good allure around it. It's like good. Yeah. I like that.
And we, from top to bottom, like I think people can look at our roster. It's like well diversified. We're in almost every single content niche now, from like, you know, food with Guga and Matt Stoney all the way to life and beauty with Sophia Nygaard. Like we're on every spectrum. And a lot of those people are the number 1, number 2, or number 3 channel in their specific content niche. And so there's just like certain characteristics that I look for and certain things that we identify, and we're like, okay, this person's perfect.
When you look back at this journey up to this point, like when you look at the success you've had, is it like, what does it feel like?
The journey from starting it to here feels like we haven't even got started. I mean, my vision for this company is so much bigger than what it currently is. And the business plan and the vision that we put in place 4 years ago is just like, we have a long ways to go. Like, I honestly like I think there's going to be a fundamental shift in how representation works and the type of talent and just how everything is becoming direct to consumer. And so we have our philosophies around how that's going to change and like how the agencies are going to have to adapt. And so we think, and this is the interesting thing with us, is like, we think over like decades, like we're making long-term decisions. I think most people are like in the day-to-day of management and they're like, we eventually just want to sell this business. No, I want to compete with WME and CAA and UTA, like, and it's going to take decades. And so a lot of the decisions we make are like with that outlook of like, this is going to take a long time, but I've taken a lot of inspiration from people like Ari Emanuel and like what they've built over decades of talent representation and building media companies. And like, that's what we're striving for. It's not necessarily just like, let's just manage creators. Like, there's a much bigger vision that we put in place. And yeah, I feel like we're in inning 2, maybe inning 1 of that vision. And it's going to take us a lot longer to get there.
That's a great place to stop.
Well, thanks guys.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. Thanks for coming over, man.